Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Winnipeg Sports Talk. My name is Connor Hrabchak, and this is episode 1 of WST Bombers Report, a brand new show that we are launching here on the WST channel, covering all things Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Every single Monday, you can expect these episodes, usually breaking down the week that was before and the game that the Bombers played and previewing the upcoming week. But as we know, it is a bye week. And I'm so glad to be joined by my co-host for every single one of these episodes, Zach Schnitzer. Most of you know him as Schnitzy from Bonfire Sports, every single post-game on the Bonfire Sports YouTube channel, breaking down the game fresh after the Bombers win or lose. Schnitzy, how are you handling the bye week so far?
You know what, man? I'm so sick of these bye weeks already.
So
we've had 2. I can't even keep straight what week we're in. I keep wanting to say, it's week 4. No, it's it's week 5. No. Oh, yeah, we've had 2. So it's week 6. It's like the players must hate this. They get revved up to go and then they're off. And then we're going to look at this later. But then you have, if you have 2 early bye weeks, Connor, you have to have a consecutive slew of games. That's insane.
Yeah.
So you're risking injury and getting burnt out. So the players will never say this in public, or nor will O'Shea over his dead body. But it sucks for them, and it sucks for fans because it's a lot of stop and start, man.
The pacing has been brutal, and we'll get into the schedule going forward because I made a little graphic because, again, we're going into week 7, and the Bombers have played 4 games. This game going up against Calgary on Friday that we're going to preview is their 5th game of the year. Their 5th game of the year, and it's week 7. And they're going to play a lot of games. So if you're like us and you're mad about the pacing of the season so far for the Bombers, it gets better. They're going to play a lot of games between now and I believe October is their next bye. But we'll get into all of that later on. But Schnitzy, it's the bye week. The Bombers have played 4 games. It's their 2nd bye week already. But through 4 games, they have won 3 of them, 2 of them coming against BC, 1 against Edmonton, and then they lost that stinker to Calgary last week before the bye. Let me just ask your general thoughts on what you've thought of the Bombers season so far through the first 4 games here, starting 3-1.
It's a great question because you're almost at the quarter pole in a way. Not that you can break down 18 games into quarters, but
we'll try.
Let's just say we've got through the first quarter of the season, and I would say if it was a score and we're looking at the metaphor of a game, I would say the Bombers are winning by a touchdown.
Sure.
I think they're 3-1. That's a very good record. It's early in the season. We know that the preseason in the CFL is very short. They are looking at a ton of guys, auditioning tons of people. So I often think of the first few games of the CFL season as a bit of a preseason, a bit of a feeling out. And I think the Bombers have done really well. It was a stinker in Calgary, but that game, I think Calgary definitely won that game more than the Bombers lost it. They were out executed a couple of plays. They were out physical. They were out schemed, but they were also playing Dickinson on the road off a bye. And Dave Dickinson is, even when the Stamps have been terrible the past couple of years, he's played the Bombers tough, Connor. I think 11 of the 13 games that they played in the last few years have been close games, right? 1-score games.
Right.
And then 8 of those games have been by 4 points or less. Dickinson's also a really good offensive coach. So he had the Stamps dialed up. And the Bombers, they kind of threw up on themselves. There was the Randolph holding, which took him back. They didn't get a touchdown there. They get a 2-and-out, but then Vavel makes a boneheaded decision to take it out of the end zone and gets knocked down at the 6. Zach throws a pick 6. It's 15-3. It wasn't over technically, but it was kind of curtains for the Bombers. Then Zach missed on a couple big throws, and Calgary was executing at a high level. So I think there's reason to be optimistic. I look back at the times the Bombers have been blown out, which doesn't happen very often. Let's say since 2019, they always come back and either beat the team or beat the living crap out of the team. You think back to 2023 when Vernon Adams, coincidentally, with the BC Lions came into Princess Auto and destroyed the Bombers the end of June, 30-6. Well, what did the Bombers do 5 weeks later? They came back and beat them 50-14, and then they beat them again in the West Final. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. Let me just touch on the first 3 games quick, and I'll throw it back to you.
Sure,
The first
absolutely.
game, Strebler's in. I thought that was a super impressive game. Brady goes out early. It's Jason Hogan's first game calling an offense, and Matthew Peterson comes in. They beat the Lions by 2 touchdowns. I thought that was one of the most impressive regular season games I've seen in a while, just because of the adversity there. Then
Agreed.
they play average against BC the next week. Zach isn't super impressive, but they get a defensive touchdown. It's sort of an average game. Then they have sort of an elite game against Edmonton, where Zach throws for over 300 and 3 touchdowns, no picks, and they did really well in that game. Obviously, they were elite, but then it's a stinker against the Stamps. So I think it's hard to tell how this team is at the quarter pole until we see them play next week. If they lay another stinker, then there's reason for concern. If this is just a blip, like blowouts have been a blip in the last few seasons, I'm not super concerned.
I say if they lay another stinker this week, which we'll get into, we'll fully preview that game. I think Calgary's really good. Then I think they're first in the West right now. They're 4-1. They just went into Saskatchewan and won 24-10, while the Bombers were on bye. And they made the Bombers look terrible in that game. And you touched on it well there, Schnitzy. But on the first 3 games, quickly, I think, there were moments where you thought, 23-23 going into the final quarter against Edmonton. There were moments where maybe you were a little bit concerned, but then the Bombers put together in a dominant fourth quarter against Edmonton and win that game by 2 scores. And then the 2 BC games, I agree with you on the first one. The adversity and them coming through in that game was impressive. And then the second game in BC, it was really the defense that was so dominant in that one. But that was against Jeremiah Mazzoli. You just beat the Lions and you were getting Zach Collaros back. So you kind of felt that the Bombers were going to win that game, and they just kind of, fell into another win in that one. And then obviously the loss to Calgary, which you touched on, has given Bombers fans a little bit of concern here, because it's not 0-4 like it was last year, Schnitzy. And that is, that was brutal. And they went 0-4, and they were 2-6 going into that home and home against BC. Like, no one at that point was thinking, oh, this team's still going to make the Grey Cup. It's undoubtedly a better situation than that was. But at the same time, 3-1, you've beaten Edmonton and BC twice, both teams that are below 500. What is this team really? And I think with 2 bye weeks in the first 6 weeks, like we mentioned, there's a lot to be left on the table here. And we'll get into the upcoming schedule. But first, I want to touch on the rematch against Calgary, because you were getting me fired up there, Schnitzy, that usually, the Bombers, when they lose to these teams in embarrassing fashion, whenever they get them at home, they dominate. This is going to be a massive game at Princess Auto Stadium. Like I said, Calgary's leading the West. This game is Friday night at Princess Auto Stadium in front of a sellout crowd. We'll touch on that a little bit later as well. 8 straight sellouts for the Bombers. But here's kind of the tale of the tape. The Bombers are 3-1. Calgary's 4-1. The passing yards per game, Calgary has the edge. Rushing yards per game, Calgary's first in the CFL at 130 rushing yards per game. Points for, Winnipeg is 0.2 more than Calgary at 28.2 versus 28. And then points against, Calgary is first in the CFL in points against per game, 18.2. They're the best defense in the league through the first 6 weeks here. Going into week 7, Schnitzy, what's the number one thing that you're watching for, and what's kind of your game preview going into Friday, sold out Princess Auto Stadium, and the Bombers looking for a big bounce back performance?
Connor, football is such a team game. A quarterback throws a pick. Did he have time? Could he step into the throw? Did the receiver get to the right 100%. Depth? Did the receiver run the right route? All of those things. But when I look at the last game and think about this upcoming game, which is going to be an absolute barn burner, man.
Can't wait.
There's nothing like Princess Auto in the summer, right? Like, it's unbelievable. But to me, this really hinges on Zach Collaros. I don't know, Connor, who Zach Collaros is at this point in his career. Is he the guy that destroyed the Riders in the West Final to the tune of 4 touchdowns, 3 to Kenny Lawler, who was absolutely electric, especially in that fourth quarter, that run, like off-script play, like Zach Collaros' biggest run since 2014, and 3 touchdowns? Or is he the Zach Collaros against that second BC game, in that best second BC game? Or is he the Zach Collaros who threw 2 pick sixes against Calgary? And it wasn't just the pick sixes. He missed Dalton Schoen on a corner route. He missed Wheatfall in the end zone. He threw it a little bit too far inside on that Damon Webb pick 6. He is the stir. What do you say? The
straw that stirs the drink. There you go.
Oh man, I'm getting ancient here.
Close
I'm turning
enough.
42 in a few days, but
Nice.
for me, it is a lot of it anyway is about Zach Collaros and how he executes. This Stampeders team, like you said, has the best defense in the CFL. They have an elite pass defense. They are first in the CFL in the red zone. The Bombers don't get to the red zone a whole lot, but when they do, they're very good. I think they were 7 of 8, 6 of 7 coming into the Calgary game, then 1 for 3 in the Calgary game. So you can see how that red zone defense is really good. I think Zach Collaros has to be on point. He's usually good for a pick a game. And that's just anecdotal. But then I look back since 2019, he sure enough, 80% of the games he's in, he throws a pick since 2019 for the Bombers. He's a gunslinger.
Yeah.
And that's great. He can burn you. But there's always a throw or two in a game. And sometimes you get lucky and the DBs on the opposing team drop the ball. But there's always a point where he makes a questionable decision, throwing it in double coverage against Jareth Stearns early in the season, right? Throws like that. So I think Zach has to be on point. And I know that's not rocket science. The quarterback is the most important position in football. Of course, he has to be on point. But the Bombers haven't run the ball particularly well since week 1 when they had 200 yards. Since then, they haven't run the ball over 100 yards. And that's against including BC and Edmonton, who don't have good run defenses, but Calgary does. And the way to beat the Bombers is you take away the run game and you make Zach beat you with his arm and you give him some confusing coverages like Damon Webb had in that pick 6. He looked like he was backing off and then he just broke on that road to Dembski and beat him to the ball. Yeah. And so Zach is going to have to be better. The last thing I'll say about this is Zach is on pace for 41 touchdowns this year, Connor, which would be a career high. He's on pace for over 4,500 yards, career high. But those stats don't matter when you have the least accurate arm on deep balls in the CFL. Yeah. He's 33% or 31%, sorry. So he has to be, but you have to get Schoen going. He's got Dembski going, but Schoen has not caught a deep ball yet. You can't just rely on Wheatfall because last week Calgary shut down Wheatfall. He was the Bombers' big play receiver with 5 30-plus yard catches. He had 8 yards.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to find a way to throw it deep and be more accurate. And last thing I'll say, funny enough, do you know how the most accurate deep ball thrower, small sample size, most accurate deep ball thrower in the CFL is? It's Chris Streveler.
Okay, whoa.
I know it's a small sample, but
yeah, I'm calling sample size.
My point is, get Strevy involved. He can throw the ball, especially when he's on the run. Especially when he's catching a defense off guard. Let him do short yardage. Keep him in for another play, right? You got to keep this Calgary, like I keep saying elite, this stupendous defense off balance. And I think that's really the key.
I'm with you on Zach. I went back and rewatched all of the games. The Bombers do a great job of posting the condensed games, and Waiters 27, loyal WST listener, does a great job of posting the full games. So I've rewatched the 3 wins. I didn't rewatch the loss because the game was over.
You're not a masochist, buddy. Why would you rewatch the loss?
But the Edmonton game specifically, when we're talking about Zach Collaros, the game was 23-23 going into the 4th. Late in the 3rd quarter and early in the 4th, I counted 2 or 3 interceptable passes, let's say, where
that's right.
It was dropped by a DB or just over the fingertips of a DB for Edmonton. At a game that's tied, that could completely change the outcome of that game. So that is something that is really going to be key, not only for this Calgary game that we're previewing right now, coming up on Friday, but for the rest of the season for the Bombers. And again, Zach Collaros is 36, 37 years old. He's not a developing quarterback. He's not going to change the way he plays. This is who Zach Collaros is. But it's having more good than bad throws for Zach Collaros and limiting the number of bad throws. Because we know he's a gunslinger, and when it works, you get the Edmonton game where, okay, they drop 2 interceptions, but he ends with 330 yards and 3 touchdowns and 1 miraculous rushing touchdown. Like, that is the upside with Zach Collaros. But the downside is what we saw last week against Calgary, where there's 2 pick sixes, the game is out of hand, and they never really get going. But just another thing from the TSN broadcast last night, I should say, after their win against Saskatchewan, here's where Calgary ranks. their defense among the CFL. They're first in points allowed per game at 20.3, first in yards allowed per play at 5.9, first in touchdowns allowed at 5, and first in defensive touchdowns with 3. So this is who's coming into Princess Auto Stadium on Friday night, is the Calgary Stampeders and their league best defense. They're first in almost everything. And Brady Oliveira got, we had the week 1 bye, and then he got hurt on the first drive of week 1 and just came back for the blowout game. And he's on a bye this week along with the rest of the team. He's coming back. Zach had the week 1 bye. Jason Hogan, new play caller. Like, I think there's a lot of things throwing the Bombers out of rhythm here early in the season, and that could bite them going into a game like this. But coming off a bye, the Bombers have been absolutely dynamite. Coming off a bye at home, I don't have the record in front of me, but I'm sure it's incredible what their record is at home coming off a bye. And you've got the best team in the West coming into town, potentially without Dalton Schoen. This is the last thing I'll say before I throw it to you, Schnitzy. Per Derek Taylor, voice of the Blue Bombers on 680 CJOB on Twitter today, the Bombers did practice. We're recording this Sunday. They practiced Sunday at around 11:30 at Princess Auto Stadium. Dalton Schoen was there, not in uniform. He was kind of walking around. Mike O'Shea, when asked about it after practice, said, quote, "I'm not concerned. It's football. We'll see." So we'll have to wait and see as to whether or not Dalton Schoen will be in the lineup. Josh Frey-Sam from the Winnipeg Free Press followed up with Mike O'Shea and asked whether or not Dylan Mitchell, kind of a splash signing in the offseason, would be an option to fill in for Dalton Schoen. And classic Mike O'Shea, he said, quote, "Yeah, everybody's an option." So I guess, Schnitzy, you and I are an option to fill in at slot back there for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But Cody Case was the receiver who ran in Dalton Schoen's spot today at practice. And Mike O'Shea was asked about that. He said Cody Case had a great camp. He even liked him as a returner a little bit. So look for either Cody Case, maybe Dylan Mitchell, maybe me or you, because everybody's an option to fill in for Dalton Schoen if he can't go. Left tackle Stanley Bryant also did not finish the game against Calgary. I kind of, in the moment, saw that as like, okay, Stanley Bryant is a veteran. This game's over. They're pulling him. But he didn't practice today either. He was there, but he did not take part. Micah Vanterpool moved over from left guard to left tackle. We'll see two key parts, arguably the two of the 4 most important players in the Bombers offense. You got Collaros, Oliveira, Schoen, and Bryant, I think would be the top 4 in no particular order. That's 2 of the 4 that missed practice today before a key game on Friday. So any last thoughts, Schnitzy, on the injuries or anything going into this game Friday against Calgary?
Yeah, I guess the other thing that I'm concerned about with the Bombers is the pass defense. Now, we'll get into the defense in a bit here, but the pass defense statistically has been very good. Mm-hmm. The problem is they've had 2 major coverage busts in the last 2 games. Against Edmonton, it was Keon Julian Grant with a 68-yard touchdown, which put Edmonton right back in that game. Looked like it could have been Jamal Parker, who maybe didn't communicate with a halfback or something because he was talking to the coaches after the play. Then last game, it was Jalen Philpott with a 66-yard catch and run. He didn't score a touchdown. He almost did, but he was all alone. Mm-hmm. And I think the Bombers secondary is good statistically. They're good players. I don't know if the Philpott bust was on Parker as well. I don't know X's and O's that well, right? Like, you really have to know what the defensive alignment was and who was in that zone, or if they're playing match coverage, who was supposed to follow that player or whatever. The point is you can't, against the hottest team in the CFL, which is Calgary, and Vernon Adams heating up, threw for 428 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, he threw 2 picks, and he has a 1-to-1 ratio touchdown to picks. So I think the Bombers can feast on that. But he had 9 passes against Saskatchewan, Connor, of over 20 yards. So this guy can bomb it. And the Bombers are going to have to be tighter in the back end, and they're going to have to communicate, and they can't have those coverage busts, or else this game could be very difficult early, because the path to victory is you get in front of the Bombers early so they can't keep establishing the run. The Bombers have the best time of possession in the CFL because they just pound you to death with the run. Yeah, they eat the clock. If they can't do that and they're forced to throw their way back into this game, the way Collaros has played, the way he's trending, I don't know, man. It would be a tough game.
It's going to be. I'm very, very excited for it, no matter how it turns out, really. I mean, either we find out that the Bombers are chasing the Stamps in the West in terms of, the rest of this regular season. The Bombers have made 5 straight Grey Cups. They're the class of the West. The Stamps are obviously looking to knock them off of that mantle. But in terms of this season specifically, if you lose twice to the same team, one of which is off a bye at home, there's reason for concern there. So this is a big game. Friday night, sold out, Princess Auto Stadium. How many times have we said that? We are very excited for it. And we are also very excited, Schnitzy, to bring up our segment of WST Bombers Report. This is the segment called Buy or Sell, where I pepper you with questions, maybe comments, maybe statements, and you have to let me know whether or not you're buying or selling what I'm telling you. And if you're watching with us, we really appreciate it. Episode 1 of WST Bombers Report. Like I said, this is coming every single Monday, so glad that everyone is with us. In the comments below, let me know if you're buying or selling what I'm trying to tell Schnitzy as well. And the first thing, we've touched on it a little bit already, Schnitzy, but the Bombers have a new offensive coordinator this season, Jason Hogan. Looking at the offense as a whole, looking at the play calling as a whole, are you buying or selling Jason Hogan's stock as an OC through the first 4 games going into this critical game against Calgary on Friday night?
I'm buying. If I use the metaphor of stocks here, he is a up-and-comer sort of Silicon Valley tech entrepreneur, some young guy, right?
Okay.
And you're like, okay, this guy's got some new ideas. He said at the beginning of the season, the press asked him, what is this offense going to be? Is it going to be like Lapo? Is it going to be like Buck? He said it's going to be a Jason Hogan offense.
Nice.
And there's been some hiccups, but I just look at that first game, Connor. Brady Oliveira goes out. He's your bell cow. Like he at that point he was the straw that stirred the drink. Thank God I got that right this time.
Nailed it.
And then you have Collaros out, and you have Strevler coming in, who's never thrown the ball particularly well. Strevler arguably has his best game of the season. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning there, he goes 3-0. There was a stinker against Calgary, although I don't know if that's so much on Hogan, to be honest. The Bombers' offense under Jason Hogan has been very, very good. Are they the best offense in the league right now? No, they're not. But they're right up there. They're first in time possession, as I said. They're second in net offense, third in points, third in rush yards, second in completion percentage, first in passing touchdowns, first in sacks allowed. So they're protecting Collaros and Strevler. And they're first in offensive penalties, right? And they have a plus turnover ratio. They're 70% in the red zone. So I think if you look at all of the stats, I think they are pretty good. I think if you take that Calgary outlier out and they continue to play well next game, I think they're good. And I would just like to see Strevler utilized a little bit more and maybe ways to get that run game going. Because as I said, they haven't eclipsed that 100-yard mark since week 1. And as we know, since probably O'Shea started, this team really goes how the run game goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As much as Zach Collaros is important.
No, I would argue it's honestly the run game more so. I mean, Brady Oliveira won an MOP. The O-line has been so great, even going back to the Andrew Harris days, which isn't that long ago in terms of if we're talking, number of seasons. This team, if it's close in the fourth, if they have a little bit of a lead in the fourth, they just take over and dominate with the run game and their defense. And Zach Collaros has been incredible. I mean, he's an MOP level quarterback, but I do think that the run game is the straw that stirs the drink. How many times are we going to use that today, Schnitzy?
I'm going to say it at least one more time just to make sure I can say it properly.
Yeah, there you go. The next thing I want to ask you about, whether or not you're buying or selling, is kind of the defense as a whole. Because like you said, the pass defense has been strong, but going into this season, I mean, you look at the depth chart and there's no Adam Bighill. There's no Brandon Alexander. They're the big names that have been around on this defense for a long time. A few of them have departed in the offseason. And there's a lot of new, younger names. Jamal Parker's at free safety. James Vaughters is at DN. He was a free agent signing. Terrell Bonds and Marquise Bridges are at the corners. Those are 2 new guys in terms of starters this season. Are you buying or selling the Bombers defense, Schnitzy, through the first 4 games here?
I am. I feel like the Bombers defense is like a your RRSP, your mutual fund. Like
Nice.
they're slow and steady.
Killing it today with
They're
the
top
metaphors.
3 in most. Thank you. I'm just getting into financial planning because I'm getting old, man, and I'm looking at. I know this is probably crazy for you, just starting your career, but like, I'm actually like the retirement isn't right now, but it's on the horizon. Like it's in the fourth quarter, and I'm kind of in like the end of the second quarter.
You need
here,
to like
but
start running the ball soon to kill the clock, right? Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
except I have a bum knee. I think the defense has been good. Like I said, man, there's been a couple of different coverage busts, but I've liked the defense. They are top 3 in most categories in the CFL, including points allowed, TDs allowed, net offense allowed. They have the fewest penalties. I love that. The Bombers team is always going to be a team that doesn't beat themselves most of the time. They're taking the fewest penalties. They are tops in an opponent time of possession. They're first in causing 2 and outs. They've got a ton of fumble recoveries, and this is the big one for me. And this is I think what the next game hinges on, and whether we continue to buy or sell is they've allowed a league best 58.6% completion percentage against. That is unbelievably good.
Yes, that is good.
And
Very good.
we know that Vernon Adams has a penchant for throwing picks. He has so far this year. So I think they are trending in the right direction, except for that little blip against Calgary. Brendan Adams only threw for 222 yards, so it's not like he ripped them apart, although he had about a 72% completion percentage. The last thing I'll say on the defense, and this is something I've really liked, Jordan Younger has blitzed a lot this year.
A lot more.
He has probably blitzed
more than last year.
A lot
for
more.
Sure. Yes.
He has blitzed more on these first 4 games than he probably did the entire season last year. And you had people clamoring for him to blitz, especially against Nick Arbuckle in that Grey Cup. Nick Arbuckle had too much time. But the Bombers had the best defense in the CFL last year, so how can you argue? I think barring one play this year where they had a 0 blitz and Bonds got beat by Tevin Jones for 29 yards down the sideline in the last Calgary game, this blitz has been good. They've gotten home or they've caused pressure and they've disrupted quarterbacks. They are still the bottom 3 in sacks, and we know last year they were last in the league in sacks, but they often rush 3. I'd like to see them get home a little more. I know pressures are just as important as sacks, and God forbid the CFL tracks pressures, right? Like, God forbid we have analytics.
One day.
I think I like the blitzing. I like that, you're getting linebackers involved in sacks like Kyrie Wilson and Tony Jones. Kyrie Wilson has 2 of them, playing very well this year, by the way. Kyrie Wilson, luckily, he hasn't been injured because he's been injury prone in the past. But you mentioned Waters. I think he's had some good pressure. I think Tony Jones, who leads the team with 27 tackles, has been great. I think Cramdy is underrated. I don't think we talk about Cramdy enough. He's like a heat-seeking missile. Yeah. And again, that secondary, if they can get it together, it's early. I think this defense can rival Calgary's for best in the CFL.
Nice. Okay, well, that's going to do it for our first ever buy or sell segment. Let us know in the comments down below if you're buying or selling what I was telling Schnitzy, and Schnitzy just told you for both. He's buying Jason Hogan and the Bombers defense through the first couple of weeks here. We are going to do another segment. We're not going to do it today, but on this show going forward, we're going to be doing the Blue Crew Review, which is a segment where we're going to ask for questions from the fans, whether, it's Schnitzy's Twitter or my Twitter or maybe the Winnipeg Sports Talk email. Wherever you want to send your Bombers questions after the games, we will be, putting a call out for questions, and this is the part of the show where we will answer all of your questions that you send in to us regarding the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I'm looking forward to doing that. We're not going to do it today. This is episode 1, so we weren't going to put out a call for questions just quite yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that next week after this crucial game Friday against Calgary. And one last thing, or actually 2 more things, Schnitzy, before we get out of here on episode 1. We got a lot to talk about. It's the bye week. We can talk for as long as we want. The schedule. So we talked about it off the top. The pacing, at least as Bomber fans, has been brutal. The players, I'm sure, hate it, especially a guy like Brady Oliveira who got hurt in the very first drive of week 1. If you are mad at the pacing and you want to see the Blue Bombers at Princess Auto Stadium or on your TV more often, don't you worry. They are playing a ton between now and their next bye week, which doesn't come until October. Their next bye, the game after their next bye is October 11th. So
Oh my God.
let's just take that into account. Let me just quickly run through this for people that are listening on podcast. Friday, July 18th, they play Calgary. Then they have a home and home against Toronto. They're back at Calgary. Then they're home against Ottawa, at Montreal. Then we've got the Labor Day Banjo Bowl, home and home. Labor Day, August 31st. Banjo Bowl, September 6th. At Hamilton, which is always a fun game that the Bombers always get blown out in after the Banjo Bowl in Hamilton. That's a fun
You're
one.
so right.
It's scarier than the Labor Day Classic for me personally, because the Bombers always lose by like 30 points to in this
I know.
game.
Sorry, I just got to cut in with that. Like, remember in 2023, they eviscerated the Riders in the Labor Day and Banjo Bowl. And then, no, maybe they didn't beat the Riders in 2023. But anyway, they beat them in the Banjo Bowl big. Mm-hmm. And then they go into Hamilton. And I remember this game. It was like Dane Evans, like he was having a
just
crappy
diced
season.
Them up.
He had 5 touchdowns. They beat us 48-31. And it was like, what is going on here?
This game every single year is like the most scheduled loss I've ever seen. Coming off the 2 emotional games against the Riders, going on the road, short week, Saturday to Friday. Oh, right. That's a loss. I'll call it right now. And then at Ottawa versus Hamilton on Saturday, September 27th. And then you can take a deep breath. That is their next bye week going into October 11th. And after that bye week, they have 3 more games, and then it's the playoffs. So the Bombers have a big stretch of games coming up here. And I don't think any of us are complaining. This has been a very slow start to the season. We want to see more Blue Bombers football. And Schnitzy and I know that we're a little late to the party here. It is week 7 after all, or we're going into week 7, but we'd like to break down, all of what's happened so far this season with the Bombers, the schedule coming up. And we've mentioned it a couple of times already, Schnitzy, and I want to bring it up again here. Let me just get it real quick. It is, the Bombers posted this on their social media. Friday night is sold out once again. 8 straight sellouts dating back to last season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at Princess Auto Stadium. Hustler said, a few weeks ago on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, it's the golden era of Blue Bomber fan support. And it really is. I know you and I, Schnitzer, are both season ticket holders. It's so much fun going to the games. On a summer night, beautiful Friday against Calgary, these big games, we get fired up for them. Just maybe a quick word and your thoughts on 8 straight sellouts and what this means for Bombers fans and the golden era of Blue Bomber fan support, which it truly is.
Yeah, I think Hustler absolutely nailed that. It really is the golden age for Bomber fans. And it's part of it's because they've just been so dominant. I know they've lost the last 3 Grey Cups as favorites. I get it. That blows. A little piece of me dies every time they lose the Grey Cup, to be honest with you. I need psychological help. But 8 straight sellouts, and some of those are on Thursday nights. They have people coming from Dauphin, like my buddy Shane, who tailgates, and they've got people coming from Brandon. Like, people are coming to these games on a Thursday night. They got to work the next day.
Like last game, let me just quickly jump in. Last game was a Thursday night against Edmonton. Like, that's a tough draw. I'm not gonna lie. Like, for a CFL, like Edmonton barely gets like 15,000 people for their own games. They're terrible. The Bombers are gonna roll them, but people just have a good time. Like they show up. It's crazy.
And the cool thing for me is that young fans are flocking to these games. Like, yes. I remember the BC game, the home opener. Mm-hmm. I was just walking around the concourse, and there was just so many young people. And I know they're not riveted by the whole game. They're at the rum hut, they're drinking, they're walking around, but they're there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're there. I mean, you've been a fan, you've been a season ticket holder since 2017. I mean, they've been dominant every single year. They're 43-6 at home, including playoffs. They don't lose at home. You are virtually guaranteed to go to Princess Auto Stadium as a fan, and you're going to see a win. It is unbelievable. And I just think it's so cool that that's been your experience as a younger season ticket holder, whereas, I've been through the Tim Burke era and the Joe Mack era, where you'd be jubilant if the Bombers kept it within 2 scores. You'd be like, oh, hey, yeah, that was pretty good. Like, it was horrible at times. It was embarrassing, man. This is dominance. It's unbelievable. Since 2016, 8 straight double-digit win seasons and playoffs, 6 straight West Finals, winning the last 5 of them, 3 straight West Finals at home. It doesn't get better than that, man.
It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. I will say, and you'll appreciate this, my only memory of the old stadium, well, not my only memory. I have many memories of the old stadium, but the new stadium was what, like 2012, roughly, I want to say. I don't have the exact year. I believe it was
2013. 2013. It was supposed to be 2012. It was
Perfect.
supposed to be 2012.
Thank you. I had that right. Nice. Okay. My memory of the old stadium is the game where I forget the quarterback's name. You'll know it, Schnitzy. I'm sure you will. But they were down big to BC. Big. And I left and I convinced my dad to leave. And I remember vividly sitting on the drive home with the radio on, hearing them come back. And every single time they scored a touchdown, my dad would just glare at me in the passenger seat. Oh, he hated me so much for that. I believe the game went into overtime as well.
It did.
I'll have to refine that game, but that's my number one memory of the old stadium is like, now I know I found out at a very young age to never leave sports games early. And that was my experience because I was like, Dad, I want to leave. Dad, I want to leave. This is boring. Yeah. They're getting blown out. And they came back and won. And I'll never live that down.
That was like one of the bright spots in that season. That was 2010.
Nice.
And that was Lapo's first year. That was after the Mike Kelly debacle. You were 8 years old.
I was 8.
It's totally fair that you wanted to leave. I was living in Toronto at the time and was watching it on TV, and I turned it off.
Yeah, there you go.
But then someone said, the Bombers won. And I was like, what?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
I think our quarterback was Steven Giles, and I think he got pulled.
He did.
Alex Brink came in and was down by like 3 touchdowns, comes back, send it to overtime. This was against KC Printers. This was a 4-14 season where the Bombers lost, I think, 9 games by less than 4 points. It was something crazy. Like they set a CFL record. They were in a lot of games, but this one they pulled out, and they won on a Dion Beasley pick 6 against KC Printers. And it's funny because after that game, I think KC Printers lost his mind. He lost the locker room because he was blaming everybody, and he never recovered.
No
It
way.
ended his career.
Wow. Okay, I do remember the pick 6 to seal it because it was overtime and he didn't need to run it back. The Bombers, they didn't need to. Like, they got the pick. They would have just won it because they were up already. I believe they won. Like, they ended up winning by like 2 scores. Oh, yeah, I found it here. Yeah, they won 47-35 on October 11th. Yeah, in double OT. So he could have just kneeled it, but he ran it back anyways and was like, hell yeah, why not? But yeah, I'll never forget that game. But looking back at that and, to today, just searching up, I mean, the Bombers went 4-14 that season. I just looked on Wikipedia. Like, they've been so dominant. And like you said, I mean, I sit in section 209 with all my peeps up there and we got a good view of the game. We're at the 50-yard line and everyone, you can see everything, but then you look down at the Rum Hut and how many people my age are just there to experience a beautiful summer night in Winnipeg. And the football game's on back there, but we don't really care about it because we're here with all of our friends and we're having a good time. That's the thought process there. But it is truly special to see 8 straight sellouts. And with the next couple of games being on Friday nights, I think that number will go up. And I'm very much looking forward to that, those games in the future that are more than likely going to be sold out. I don't know the official number for how many tickets they've sold, but if they can sell out a Thursday night against Edmonton, they can sell out a Grey Cup rematch on a Friday night on August 1st against Toronto. I think that won't be a problem. So thank you everyone for listening to episode 1 of WST Bombers Report. Schnitzy, any final words on the way out? This was an absolute blast.
Yeah, man, I love it. Great time today chopping up Bombers with you, Connor. You are a young phenom, my friend. When I was 22 years old, I was miserable living in my parents' basement. I hated my life. So I just I give you props because you're young, but you're polished, man. Like, your stuff. It's very impressive. It's scary to think where you're going to be when you're 42, when you're my age. You'll probably, I don't know.
I'll be reminiscing on a 4-14 season from 10 years ago. That's where I'll be. But no, Schnitzy, thank you. Like you said, you're 42, but you're very polished. You know your stuff. You come prepared. And I'm super excited to continue this throughout the season. I know we're late. It's episode 1 and it's week 7. But 2 bye weeks has given us time to kind of gather our thoughts on the Bombers season. And there is a lot of games, like we mentioned, coming up here. And Schnitzy and I are going to have, questions from you guys. We're going to have the buy or sell segment. And every single Monday, you can expect WST Bombers Report. So thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 1. We will see you after this game Friday night against Calgary next Monday for episode 2 of WST Bombers Report. Talk to you then, everyone. See ya.